So my first question: what is this ontology? Why did you choose 4 of these quadrants?
Okay.
What's the name for them?
Okay, so I'll explain quickly. So I guess what we'll do here is I'll go through explaining how the system works in general, and then he's gone through with a really tangible example. So as we explain each section, he'll explain the example. So basically, after leading the mechanism design working group for a year, then and having there be a lot of different like intersectional and interdisciplinary levels of understanding, like what happens with blockchain, what happens with smart contracts, and then DAOs and token models, and just these different elements of decentralized organizations that people want to represent on the blockchain. Then I realized there's these 4 dimensions in which you should really examine how a system works in order to have a full picture, and also to see how they work together when designing a blockchain system. So there's ecosystem, governance, tokenomics, and legal, and these are not mutually exclusive. The point is to lead different dimensions that are represented is basically a lens through which you're looking through it, so you get a full picture of all. So that's the kind of vertical bits of the system, and then what is going on with
what's a protocol? What's a protocol and what's data here? Like, do you separate like algorithms and?
So basically, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but what I think you were asking is so basically, what we do for each dimension, then you show the current and future state, so that you can say, okay, this is the characteristics of a current state, and the future state we want to reach, to show the differential between them and what needs to be built and implemented, on-chain and off-chain. So what happens going through it, and then he's about to show the tangible example that I think will make this make more sense. And then after that, then I'll explain what this ideate part is, because then it will be more clear. So basically, there's the current and future state. Then once you have figured out what future state you want, then you say, okay, this is on this quantum of feasibility versus impact. Then that will be able to show which things are implementable, likely to be implementable on a level of feasibility, and then also which are likely to have a high impact. So then if you identify ones that are both feasible and high impact, you can say, are those implementations on-chain or off-chain? And from there you can say, okay, start identifying, does it need a token system? Does it need a suite of smart contracts? Do any of those exist? Is there a DApp implementation, etc.?
So the presence here of something means it was calibrated, like it existed in nature, existing as a code? Or?
Let's see. Okay, I think this might be a good time for him to start the specific example, and then maybe it will make more sense.
Yeah, so we'll go back to the idea of why the 4, and it's a bit because there's a neoliberal idea of the end of history, and that kind of governance have to stay the same forever. But we also believe in kind of an apocalyptic end of the world, but that also allows a messianic reimagining of a new future, and that requires the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
So this is clean ideas, clear ideas, no implementation, no ecosystem. I mean, just the ideas.
These are
right?
just ideas and stuff. So
without any connection to the reality, right?
No. So we started with the Hummus DAO, which is basically today you got Israel, Hamas, Fatah, the PLO, and the people. This is the situation. We want to turn it into this. The United Tahina plus Hummus Federation. How do you do this? You got to create a DAO that brings basically a digital jurisdiction that has additional benefits to people and that disincentivizes people, incentivizes collaboration and disincentivizes violence. Ideas are P2P, content distribution and sharing, shared media production.
But this particular case, it doesn't touch any identification problem. How you will
Not yet. That's why you go through the whole system.
Okay.
Go through the whole system, and we can say that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this feasibility and the impact? So this would be pretty feasible, medium impact. This could be a higher impact because it's directly related to propaganda, but probably more difficult because there are not only technical but political issues. And then we can say that these are this will be more of an on-chain mechanism, and this can be kind of in the middle between the on-chain and the off-chain world. And then in the end, both of them kind of touch to culture and technology, but in varying differentials. Some ideas that were in the governance space were, of course, DAO-based voting. How it would manifest itself would be TCR, that would incentivize people to produce peaceful songs.
Oh yeah, and so we'll very quickly talk about what's the difference with ecosystem and government.
Okay.
So ecosystem is about who are the players in the system, so that so the purpose of this is to basically combine user-centric design thinking and agent-centered dynamic systems modeling. So the kind of crux of that is to say who are the users of the system, who are the different players involved. How does the system look right now, in terms of how power moves around in the system, how is value defined in the system, what is the resource allocation, and in a way where it's this is what happens now, at a state where you're starting out, and then this is how when you design, if you were to design the optimal system, that's how that works. So ecosystem is about the people, the resources, the different variables at play in the system. So that's why you start with ecosystem.
Does it include technical part like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or does it include some influence groups and what's the ecosystem? Is it purely technical?
You could do this,
or the whole.
So you could do this process with. You could do it with Ethereum, for example. So the ecosystem, the Ethereum ecosystem would be, the core developers, the other developers who build things open source on ecosystem. It would be, the people who actually use dApps. It would be, the designers that make, the UI for dApps. It would be the people who buy Ethereum, but also people who buy tokens that are made with the Ethereum protocol. And so there's all of these different people in the Ethereum ecosystem. And so once you define what the ecosystem is, then you move to governance. And so governance is defined as what are the policies at play? What are the standard practices? What are if you're trying to design a self-regulating system, what are the regulations that end up happening in a system? And and you would use the same framework of today and tomorrow, feasibility and impact. Does it happen on chain or off chain? Because once when you understand what are the governance systems at play, then you can use those to use your understanding of how the system regulates itself to make a tokenomic model. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But anyways, to go back to I think what he was sharing about the TCR. So to answer your question, a TCR involves off-chain, human behavior and human interaction, but it also has the on-chain element of this is how the TCR actually works on-chain.
So it can also, governance can also include the protocol for governance, and in tokenomics you could have the protocol for the mission of the currency. So tools for the TCR, for co-creation and collaboration tools. Then you would have
You mean more informal protocol, like written rules, or more
it can be in that sense of the protocol, but also in the technical protocol of the computation itself,
and it should be both. And, often it is, especially translating an existing current system to a protocol DAO system. Then you would have the written rules, and then translate not only kind of the pros of those rules, but also the relationships and incentives that are kind of represented by those rules into how the smart contracts work.
So taking, for example, tokenomics, we have to go from the thing that there is a shekel and Jordanian dinar that is used in those places. You gotta move to a hummus coin. What it be used for? Well, it could be used for e-commerce, trade of goods between those countries and peer-to-peer. UN-funded peace dividend that basically rewards people for keeping the peace. A token for exchange of goods, getting shared equity in co-ops, startups, basically a common treasury between those people. And how it manifests itself, for example, the peace dividend could be a decentralized oracle that listens to news articles. And so when there's war, violence, it starts paying the peace dividend. You could have reliable markets, so basically guaranteeing circular economy through bonding curves. These bonding curves could also be used to provide capital when there's no liquidity in the currency markets. In terms of technology, well, more cultural stuff would be more dancing, more love, more music for more peace, more money, more happiness. Technology would be, for example, percentage of equity in co-ops and in kibbutz and
And speak quickly, about how this on-chain implementation of bonding curves translates to, it's like it's on-chain and off-chain because it ends up having a technological implementation and the cultural element. Yeah. So does that make sense? Because if not, like it is, kind of this random thing.
The system is like multi-layered, right? The whole thing. Yeah. So it's not just
then the last part is legal. So we want to go from, UN resolution, blah, 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 one state and two governments, let's say non-state governments, to one DAO. Feasibility will be difficult, but, you need a UN recognition of the DAOs, NGOs that are kind of moderating the discourse there. You get like a unique citizenship with benefits, and again, like online services to bank the unbanked, a digital jurisdiction, and a common cultural budget.
Say it again?
A common cultural budget too, and a digital jurisdiction, which basically supersedes the legal entities, which are like Israel, Fatah, PLO, and Hamas, and the Jews.
Thank you guys, and you forgot
so much
your
for
names.
Yeah. Oh,
Who
I'm
are
Beth.
Who are you, and what you did? What's this place?
So this particular container space is the Open DAO pop-up that's put on by Starfish Labs and DAO Generator, which are two projects that we work on.
DAO Generator?
Sorry, I meant to say DAO Incubator. And
And we're in the Bushwick Generator.
Yeah, we are in the Bushwick Generator.
And Starfish Network, right?
Yeah.
Okay, three.
So, this is Deza. Yeah. So.
Got it.